I think all these examples show really well that passive house works in Australia, right?
Yeah.
Because often there is a little bit of it comes from a cold climate. Does it actually work in our warm or hot or humid climate? Can passive house work? But these examples speak for themselves.
Hello, everybody. Today we are talking about passive house in Australia and how the whole passive house movement started here and where we are at and maybe where we are getting to. Let's see where we're here in Australia and what's happening. So, Julia, what's your experience with passive house in Australia and what happened in your life so far?
Yeah, hi Daniel. Yeah, interesting that you asked. So my experience is I moved to Australia. My background is, for those who don't know me, I studied architecture in Germany, where obviously passive house and energy efficient building is a lot bigger than what it's here in Australia. So I came to Australia for work reasons, but for other reasons as well. And I started working as an architect or as a graduate architect in different architectural offices. So the first one was a really big office in Melbourne. And my experience was that sustainability wasn't really at the forefront of anyone's mind. So it was a lot of designing, a lot of making things pretty, but not really looking after being comfortable and the buildings being sustainable. And I remember a specific project where we had 88 townhouses, and then the energy assessor came and said, oh, 4 of them don't meet the energy requirements, so 4 of them need double glazing. And me being from Germany thinking, why only 4 of them? Let's make all of them double glazed. Brilliant. No, it's way too expensive. We can't make them all double glazed. And for me, that was like, why wouldn't you? Okay. So that was my first experience really sort of honing in that people weren't aware of that, making buildings energy efficient. And I moved on from there to different places. So I worked, as I said, I started in Melbourne, worked in Darwin, where obviously very, very different experience with a different climate, where the most important thing is we need to open the buildings. We need to have louvers and we need to let the air through. But it's so hot there that the air doesn't help, like it helps for an hour a day, but it's just hot and humid and let all the hot air and the humidity in. And then I moved on to Perth, where this story was similar, even though everyone thinks it's a mild climate. Really, in winter, I have never been as cold as I'm here in Perth. And then finally, after sort of working here in Perth also for a few years, I said, look, it's enough. I can't keep going like that, where I pretend that the buildings are usually nice and the designs are nice, but they're not doing what they should do. And started looking for alternatives. So I was made redundant, and I thought, how do I move on from here? And that's when I found Daniel. And finally, things fell into place where I went back to the roots, back to passive house, back to sustainable, energy efficient buildings. And really sort of this makes really sense. From there on, I thought, I found what I wanted to do all my life. So that's my experience.
That's your experience. Yes.
Yeah.
So it means you lived in Melbourne, so you had a relatively cold climate over
Yes.
there, more humid and more more European in a way.
More extremes. Yeah.
Yeah. And it as well, it looks a little bit more European as well from culture. And then you went to the extreme Darwin, like, can it be worse? Yeah.
I think that's as hot as it gets and humid. Yeah.
Yeah. So you really had that experience and you saw that it didn't work in both places. And here in Paris, you're like, I've been staying at your place in Paris, and your bathroom is so cold. You don't even have glass in there. You just have you have glass, but you have this slat there that is just mesh.
In the toilet, there's one part
Yeah.
that's always open for
Yeah.
ventilation, I guess. But even if you go into the bathroom where there's not always open, but the aluminium sliding windows, they
Oh,
never
yeah.
close properly. They just,
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
shut, but they're not
Yeah.
closed. There's
Yeah.
always some kind of draft coming through.
And then you even have to put on the vent while you're there, and now you're there wet, coming out of the shower, and you have this bloody fan pulling air, and you're getting even colder. Yeah, it's like
Exactly.
yeah, definitely agree. It's not the not the nicest experience. Like even like if I think about it, back in Germany, we were staying over Christmas, wintertime in Europe. Yeah, so really winter, a meter snow, like a meter snow in wooden shelter out in nowhere. It was far warmer there. Maybe not on the toilet because the toilet was outside and yeah, everything was frozen there. So that wasn't the most hygienic experience, but everything was frozen. So yeah, no worries. You could actually dry your towel by wrapping it and then holding it, letting it freeze, and then it was like hot, and you can put it outside and wait, and then
Stand
it
it
was
up.
like after time, yeah, I was getting dryish again. Yeah, dryish. So yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, so my experience probably makes sense to start a little bit before Australia because things happened why I came to Australia. Even as a child, I was already like building always my little shelters and like I was building my pillow castles and putting electricity in there. And then like back in the day, we still had light bulbs, 120 watt bulb in pillows is not the best
And
mix.
heater.
No, it's light. One left
Oh,
light in there. And then I was maybe 5 or 6, so like really, really young. And then obviously that thing falls over and burns the thing when I wasn't present, and then the whole place is full of smoke and yeah, things like this. And then as well, building in the forest. So I was always building was always my thing. And then I moved to Ireland as a carpenter, and because I know that Celtic Tiger was alive, and I worked there on different construction sites. And then I met Ian Massey. Yeah, he was a foreman on a site, and he was my boss. And he worked for him. Like actually, I only wanted to work for 4 weeks. Yeah, I said, yeah, I can work for 4 weeks, but then I have to leave. After 1 week, he came over and said, Daniel, what do I have to do that you can stay?
you're not
Yeah.
leaving.
And then I said, okay, really simple. Monday and Tuesday, I'm off. I'm free. And if I need more free, then I'm getting more free. Then I can stay. That was my bit. And he said, okay, no worries, stay. Because I was doing my far distance studies. So I was doing a 5-year study in far distance in 2 years. And while working on construction site, there earning my living. And he was my boss. And he then reached out to me while I was doing then really study, like doing my civil engineering. He reached out and said, Daniel, I'm now in Australia. Can you please come over? I want to start a business. And then I came over 2014 to Australia, landing here in Perth. And we had our prototype. We got our patent launched. We went to the home show with our our prefabricated panel and our double glazing window in it and everything. And people was coming over, why double glazing? What the hell? So we were really aliens there. It was like, nobody knows what we were talking about. And then there was this other stand. They were doing solar passive. And I thought, wait a second, solar passive? Are they doing passive house? So I went over, talked to them, and I spent like 15, 20 minutes talking to them totally like in a, wow, people are doing passive house. This is the best place and everything, until I realized solar passive and passive house is not the same.
Not the same. No,
It's
Daniel.
not the same at all. So I first thought Australia is already really, really far. And then yeah, after 3 weeks, I was checking the financial model. We got the patent gone. We had our presentation. We had our first quotes and everything out and potential clients. And then I was flying to Canada to do my second master directly from Perth, the 2-year master in one. Then flying back from Canada to Germany. And then it was writing in 3 months my thesis for my German masters that I was pausing while being in Canada. And there I spent 3 months writing my thesis, Passive House Design for Perth, Western Australia. And that was our foundation model to actually build the business here in Perth. And handed it in. A week later, I landed in Perth and starting building. Next home show was already double glazing. So that was a year later. Just a year
Okay.
later, they already were saying, double glazing. And then I think 2 years later, they started to ask for it.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was so fast, like in a 3-4 years period from what the hell is double glazing to actually, you have double glazing. That was my experience. And yeah, we went to the Passive House conferences in Melbourne, and the first Passive House was built here in Perth with Roger Joyner. And yeah, all that that happened, and was, yeah, it was really a journey. And if you think about it, for how small Australia is not small, but for a population perspective,
Mm.
I think we're doing pretty well. Like we started, what is it now? I think 13 years ago now, or like something like that. Like we started in the year 2000. I think that's when Claire Perry and the other two, can't remember their
Yeah,
names, when they started the association. I think it was 2012. I'm not like, if it's incorrect, please leave a
around
note.
there.
Yeah, please let me know so we can correct it at least in the article if it's wrong there. Then yeah, she started the whole movement, and like she is so amazing. Like she always came across so calm and delicate to some extent, but
Mhm.
she was so fearless. She was just going for, said, how can we do it? Yes, we can do that. No worries. All easy. Like always with this extreme confident on a way, and you trusted her because she seemed so delicate and trustworthy, and she had no clue how to do it, but she pulled it off. So that was like, at least that's what is the story that I've heard. And then the whole Passivhaus movement started with forming APA, having the first conference in Australia and getting the whole thing moving, and then having the problem with getting members, where then I was giving out free. I think you got a free membership, didn't you, Julia?
Yes, with the course. Yeah,
Yes,
I remember
exactly.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
totally.
I was actually giving everybody free memberships if they're actually signing up with us for joining APA, and then they actually paid. They paid me to take over the Box Hill courses, to
Mhm.
fly over, to pay for accommodation. They did everything so that I can actually help out and build this whole education center that we have now with Passivhaus HUB.
Yeah.
Uh, and, and now we're at a point where Passivhaus is not mainstream yet, but I think it had already an impact on the NCC, as well with what Proclima is doing with Jesse there and
Mhm.
Airbus Stan. And we're having actually 5 certifiers, I think now, right? We have Claire Perry, we have Marcus, we have what's his name again? The other two, they're working together. Then we have Jason Quinn, and we have in New Zealand, Jason Quinn, and we have in New Zealand Denise. Yeah,
Denise,
Denise
yes.
is well a
Yeah,
certifier. So we have 5 certifier of about 100 certifiers worldwide that are actually in the region. That's 5%.
that's
Like
very
I think
cool.
that is amazing. I think we're doing really, really well, and people are having so much work with Passivhaus right now. They don't even know how to
Yeah,
get it through. So I think we're doing well compared to others, but still not good enough for the planet. Yeah, we can
yes.
definitely do more, and that's the reason we are pushing it on a completely new level. Okay, so that was our story.
Your story, yes. Exactly. Yeah, perfect. It's so great to hear, how it evolves and that, things are not always a straight line. So that sometimes you take a little detour, but you come back to what you're passionate about. And I think in our cases, it was a little bit like that, where we always knew what we wanted,
Yeah,
but then you sort of get off the track. But in the end, you come back to what you love and what you're passionate about. And that's why we're here. Maybe when we talk about passive house in Australia, we want to talk a little bit about some examples that
mm,
have sort of pioneered in the passive house world, that have set some good examples of that it can be done here and it can be done here well. Do you have
yeah.
something in mind?
First one that's coming to my mind is like Roger Joyner's project here in Perth, the
Mhm.
Cottesloe project. That
Oh,
was
yeah,
the first one here in WA, and I think the third in Australia, something like. I can't remember the number.
very early on, yes.
Yeah, but the first on the Southern Hemisphere, that was a Passive House Premium.
Mm, mm,
Yeah, so that's what he has done, and he has invested so much. He couldn't even do the course here. He had to fly, I think, to Germany, or was it New
mm,
Zealand? I'm not 100% sure, but I think he couldn't do it here. He had to fly out. He had to learn it all from, like, there was no material around. Like you really had
yeah.
to go for buying books and then reading through books that are not necessarily best written. And then you had to go, I think, to Germany or to New Zealand. I'm not sure where it was. Where he went to actually do the training.
Mm.
I think Claire went
Also,
to Germany back in the day as well. So Yeah, so that is one that I definitely think, and I've been in there, I've been looking around, we've done a blow door test on it back in the day, and it was actually, we couldn't nearly test it because it was so airtight. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Then I would probably mention as well the school in Canberra, and that early learning center. What was it called
Yeah.
again?
Torres Early Learning Center.
Torres Early Learning Center. And this lady that was responsible for it, she was as well a force to reckon with.
Mhm.
She was like, "No, I'm doing it as an owner builder. I will save money and I get it done." And I think she got it done for $1,800 a square meter. Obviously, 10 years ago, bit more difficult today, but Passivhaus doesn't
Still.
need to be expensive. Yeah, it's like that was an amazing project from what she has done. Then I would say Gillies Hall is an
Mhm.
interesting one. The student residence in Melbourne, where they actually build a CLT building. Is it
Mhm.
4-story? I think it's 4 or 5-story high. Can't
It's definitely
remember.
yeah.
Sorry, and the Design PH, that software that is that plugin for SketchUp, the image that you're getting on the manual and
Ah.
everything that marketing, that is actually Gillies Hall. Yeah. So
Oh, how
the
cool.
the shading algorithm that is now in the new software is strongly based on that, with that vertical shading patterns.
Mhm.
So they actually, there was a strong partnership to actually develop that software, and it is performing unbelievable well, from at least what I've hearing for students. So they're actually learning it while they're studying. So it's amazing. And there was a study done about Gillies Hall by the university, where they actually say the whole passive house is not working. We need a better explanation. But that study was so bad. Like they didn't even know the difference between ventilation and air tightness. So don't believe everything that is written, but this study was still really good if you're able to get the data and understand what it actually means,
Mhm.
because this building, the highest temperature ever measured in our extreme event, like the super hot summer in 2019, 2020, when we had all these
Mhm.
bushfires and everything going crazy, and the building was just open, I think, for 2 years or so. That was the hottest event, and the highest temperature that they were measuring in there, from memory, was 26.2 degree
Mm. That's
without
not
a
very
cooling
hot,
system.
is it?
No, without a cooling system in there. So amazing
Mhm.
performing building, and it may have been a little bit more from a heat perspective than they've calculated, but that has something to do with the behavior of students. They
Yeah.
didn't expect to have 50 laptops in there and
Mhm.
charging devices and everything of that is actually radiating heat. So that was that time, like that's now 5-6 years ago. That was when we still didn't really know the impact of moving from bulb to LED and how all these electrical transformer devices are impacting the performance. So we were
Oh,
still a
yeah.
little bit in that, let's see. But now, yeah. Passive house is not a fixed standard. It's a developing standard that we're improving
Yeah.
and building on. And there's nothing better than that out there right now. Yeah. Um,
Perfect. So
is an
all
example
these
for
examples.
you? Yeah.
Sorry.
Is there an
All
example
these
coming for you?
examples show I think all these examples show really well that Passive House works in Australia, right?
Yeah.
Because often there is a little bit of it comes from a cold climate. Does it actually work in our warm or hot or humid climate? Can Passive House work? But these examples speak for themselves, and there's
Oh,
many more. So Daniel only picked out two or three.
yeah.
If you want to know more, there's a few more in our article, and there's a lot more on the website of the PHI database if you want to see some more examples.
Yeah, let's link that in the article. Let's link the database to as a resource underneath. So in our
Yeah.
multimedia article. So if you want to get that, just follow the link that is somewhere here below. Or if you're seeing it really new, it might be the next day there, because we have to think of the algorithm that doesn't like external links. But yeah, you will find it, and there you get then the global Passive House database, where you actually can get inspired of finding new
Mhm.
designs and solutions and what has been done. It's unbelievable what has been done.
And see how diverse Passivhaus can be. Passivhaus doesn't limit you in your design. You will see
Yeah,
all these different examples, and they all look completely different. And
yeah.
it's really amazing. So have a look at that.
Hmm.
Daniel, when we talk about Passivhaus in Australia, I think one thing we might want to mention or might want to talk about a little bit is um, the NCC or our how it compares like
Nutters and
groupings,
NCC. Yeah,
the Nutters and the NCC. So
yeah.
what's the deal there with Passivhaus and our ratings that we have to have in Australia?
Okay, so where to start? Okay, so the NCC is the National Construction Code, and that is something that is as well developing a standard. But think about the National Construction Code, and that is not just Australia, that's everywhere. Yeah, it's always the same thing. The National Construction Code is the lowest acceptable standard that we can build to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is, if you compare it to a car, that would mean you have a seatbelt in there. You have 2 external mirrors, like mirrors to look back, not 3. You have no cameras for back and forward or anything like that for your parking. Yeah, you would have no radio, no aircon, maybe even a wooden chair, more or less, like to sit on, like nothing comfortable. And that's it. I think you need to have a windshield wiper or something like that. Yeah, and 1 millimeter profile on your tires. That's more or less what you have. But
Bare minimum.
you would never ever have a car like this. You would have your airbags in there. You would have in there a radio at least, if not a whole stereo and sound machine, yeah, depending your age and what you're doing. Then you would have your air conditioning in there. You would have your comfort. Like you want to have comfort in there because we know we can have it. The building industry, everybody's always saying, let's just fulfill the minimum standard, but that is not what we want. Like, yeah, like
No.
it makes no sense. We want to do better, and the National Construction Code is the bare minimum. That's everywhere in the world. So if you're sticking to the bare minimum, you as well need to change your design, you change your building methods every single time when that is changing. But if you're staying ahead of it, like going for Passivhaus, you can actually set it up and you know it works. Yeah. And you don't need to change because it's far more than the standard requires, and you get better quality of clients as well. Now the Nutters, so that's the energy rating system, like the NF in Germany, for example. The Nutters is again the lowest acceptable standard that we can build to. And as well, it is a political tool. It's not a building physics tool. Not that the Nutters, that the system is able to do it. Like the system in the background is pretty exact. You can get the right numbers, but what you need to enter to actually get your certification, that part is so limited that your mistake is 300%. Yeah.
Wow.
So if you, for example, say if you calculate your building needs, say $2,000 for heating and cooling, it could be as well $6,000. Yeah. So you can't use that for an economical optimization because the results are so wrong. Passivhaus has a 95% accuracy. So not like that means a mistake of 5% instead of 300%. Yeah. So the extreme is from the calculation itself, and we can really use it, but now the user behavior is coming in. So the user behavior could actually get the energy that you calculated, cut it in half. So if you calculated your 15 kilowatt hours, it could be 7.5, or it could double in the extreme. If somebody leaves the windows open the whole time and that's the aircon run the whole time, then obviously it goes up to 30, it doubles. Yeah. So that's the user behavior. We have no control over that. So and that's the thing as well. It's your home. There is no Passivhaus god that is coming down there and sending thunder down your way if you're opening your windows or not using the Passivhaus like intended. It is your home. You do whatever you want to. So now Natas, because of this massive mistake that is in there, that is deliberate from a political reasons, we want to give higher values to different things of decision making, that they're going down that route. And we're having, on the other hand, we need to make it simple enough that everybody is able to do it. But now with these mistakes, like how do you enter Windows? I think that's the easiest to understand. You go to your worst table. Yeah, the worst table that is out there, in my opinion. The worst table, in there you go take the numbers and now you apply it for every window. But the
Correct.
ratio between frame and glazing is completely different in every situation. That means every window is actually different, but we are saying every window performs the same, and that has nothing to do with reality. Yeah, so that's the reason why it can't be exact. Even if the physics behind it are correct, the political decisions that we made, what is needed to be entered, isn't making it completely wrong. A mistake of 300% easily. Same in Germany, same in France, same in Switzerland, even 100% in Luxembourg. These are the things I calculated back in the day when I was a researcher for the European
Yeah.
Union on these things. So it is a political thing. It's not correct. So you can't use it for economical optimization. You can't use it to optimize your design. You need to use something like the PHPP, and as well, it gives you instant results. And with these instant results, you can do iterations to actually improve. Say, hey, what happens if I increase my overhang by 20 centimeters? That's too much. Let's go back to 10. Go here. So you can actually iterate and find the better solution. The same would be with, oh, I don't have this insulation available. Let's change it. Let's see how that performs.
Yeah.
Okay, it's fine. And that's the massive advantage with Passivhaus. But now I'm going into my rant about how the whole thing is happening.
It's so awesome.
But I think you've realized it's our passion. It's our, yeah.
Yes. If I let Daniel talk, he will talk for the next 2 hours. No, it's
Yeah.
really good. It all makes so much sense, Daniel, what you're saying. And it really feels like for people watching us now, people that are interested, it really makes sense to join the Passive House movement in Australia, because Passive House here is already there, but the story is still being written. So it's
Yeah.
not finished yet. It's started, but we need to do so much more. I think you mentioned that at the start.
Yeah, yeah. As well, like think about it from a hockey stick perspective. Yeah, like this hockey stick developments.
Yeah.
You speak of a hockey stick that at the bottom it seems like nothing is happening, and then it goes up in a straight line. We see that with AI, for example. AI is going super crazy in the moment, but even in that moment, it seems like it's already really steep. So you have the feeling, oh, I'm coming late to the party, but it's still really at the bottom of that hockey stick. I believe what happens in the next 5 to 10 years in that movement, the passive house movement, or how buildings need to perform, out of not just passive house reasons, there's as well society reasons, there's electrical grid reasons, there's so many reasons why we need to go down that route. And there is no other solution. The physics, like as long as this happens, we need to go down this road. There is no other way. The physics on planet Earth are not changing, and climate is getting more extreme every single year. Like we're having just now this extreme storm now I'm going into a specific, but we have this extreme storm in the Philippines that is now moving to China, and that is, I think, still at 230 kilometers an hour or something like that. Unbelievable speeds over land, and it's already going for a while. So it's like, then we had this 70,000 additional deaths in the EU regarding heat deaths when we had this 2 weeks heat event in the year 2023, I think it was. Yeah, so climate gets more extreme, and we are not designed for these extremes, and our buildings are not designed for these extremes. There are buildings where you have no air conditioning system in your building, and the temperature is going up to 40 degrees. This is not habitable. This is like a death sentence if you're not able to escape this environment. Yeah, so you can bear it for a while, but try to be in that environment for more than 3 hours. No way.
Or when you're,
Yeah.
when you're sick, when you're not healthy, or when you have a little baby, newborns, they're not so,
Mm.
they can't adapt so easily. So,
Yeah.
really, really important to make your home comfortable and sort of make sure it's safe for living in.
And that's for every human. For
Yes.
every human being out there, we need to do that. Not just in Australia, not just in the Western world, as well in the third world, everybody. And we are working as well on solutions for that. Like, how can we do passive house for free, more or less? That's the idea. Yeah. Yeah. But that's
Awesome.
my
But that's a
craziness.
story for another day, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, straw bale housing in third world countries, one of my passions.
Yes.
Yes, let's wrap it up. If you want to get that link to that database, go to the article. If you think this is quality and you want to see that again, follow us, like it, follow us, and share it so that more people see it. Maybe somebody that is just designing a new home, and give them a little bit of an insight what is actually possible. And what Wolfgang Feist told me now, like he's the founder of Passivhaus, what he told me now 15 years ago, I think, don't accept the no.
Yes,
Yeah, it is possible. We can do better. Yeah, we
absolutely.
can do better. Yeah. So don't accept no, that it can't be done. It can be done. It's been done for over 30 years, guys. So we can do it as well.
Exactly.
Okay.
Cool. We'll see you next time.
See you then.
Bye, guys.